We are here to talk about your health journey. So you
Mm.
mentioned traveling around and work. We mentioned in the introduction you found carnivore, but it wasn't that long ago. Tell us about your personal health history and journey, which started at a quite young age for you.
Yeah. So, you know, I've been pretty much unhealthy all my life. And that's just because I've been eating junk food all my life. I'm a sugar addict. I'm an anything addict. If I can try something, I'll get addicted to it. Um, and that's one thing. And I was always kind of unhappy with my weight and have I was never massively overweight, but always unhappy. And when and kind of separate thing, but as I was younger, when I was 17, I had a stroke, and that wasn't related to diet or anything like that. That's related to an aneurysm bursting in my head. And that so the hemorrhagic stroke happened when I was 17, and as a result, um, I had some lingering effects from that, like weakened right side, and kind of limp when I'm walking, things like that. And that contributed a bit to depression. And that depression contributed a lot to seeking out ways to feel better, like drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, eating until there was nothing left to eat, and then finding more to eat, that kind of thing. And again, I never got massively overweight, but I was unhappy with my weight. So that's kind of how things started. But that just continued on through most of my life. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask how the stroke impacted your like professional life. Obviously, that's affecting your movement, but it did have any lasting effect on your professional life, your career?
Not really. No. I was very fortunate that it's going to sound a bit weird, but I was very fortunate that I had the stroke when I did. When I was 17, like recovery was very fast. Um, the issue I had was just externally really like the with the gait and stuff like that, but yeah, um recovery happened really quick. If it happened in my 40s or 50s or something like that, it would have been pretty bad, I think,
I
but
see.
yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to ask you that. Sorry, I cut you off. Can you
Yeah,
keep going?
no
Is that
no
story?
worries. Yeah, so I continued on like as a I got to the point where I was an alcoholic, and I found out in 2022 that I was pre-diabetic, and also that, of course, I knew I had to give up the alcohol at some point. But hearing the doctor tell me I needed to give up the alcohol was kind of the kick in the pants I needed. And the only thing I knew how to do was the get would give me self-control to perhaps get rid of the alcohol and the sugar was go low carb. Because I'd done low carb on and off over the previous 22 years, and I knew in myself that that gave me self-control. I knew that just that there was this feeling kind of comes over you, like you suddenly rise above all your addictions. You suddenly rise above a lot of things that you would normally be really, I don't know, intense about. And so I the doctor wanted to put me on some drugs, and I was like, no, 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 hang on, let me try and sort this out for the first couple of weeks. And so he agreed, and I gave low carb a try again, and that coupled with the fact that I changed my routines around a lot so that I wasn't triggered by the same things. So I wasn't walking past the bar, I wasn't walking past the convenience store where I could buy alcohol or ice cream or whatever. I was able to get off the alcohol, get off the sugar, get off the processed foods. Um, the issue came up when I started having quite severe gastrointestinal problems straight after I'd eaten. And I was like beside myself. I was thinking, okay, I've got off the alcohol, I've got off the sugar, I've got off all this bad stuff, and now I'm in the bathroom all the time straight after I've eaten. So what's wrong? So I started looking around and I found videos by Ken Berry and other people and talking about how vegetables may not be the best thing to eat. And Ken Berry in a video particularly singled out some of the vegetables I was eating as, vegetables that would cause gastric distress and other issues. And I'd been eating them because I thought, oh, well, I need to get my vitamin C. And I gave up those vegetables straight away. I was just like, okay, well, I'll try it without it. So I just went on to eating, bacon and eggs and meat, and steak and stuff like that. And the problems disappeared. And I've been carnivore ever since, and that's been over 2 years now.
That's amazing. Do you recall as you go back in your journey and you said you've done versions of low carb for over 20 years. Do you recall some of the influences that got you there? Because I would say outside of maybe like the Atkins diet, maybe that second kind of iteration of Atkins diet when like seems around that time, like 2000, 2002, that like everybody knew about Atkins again, but they were already eating such low fat that people were eating super high protein and were losing weight, but were very grumpy at the time. Like, do you remember what some of the influences were that even, you know, told you about low carb?
Mm. So Atkins was my influence. So
Okay.
I tried everything to lose weight, eating only certain types of food, only eating vegetables, and I was never really a vegetarian or anything like that, but I'd go through periods where I'd have a week or something just eating carrot soup or whatever. And nothing worked. And so I bought Atkins' New Diet Revolution in 2000 and I read through that and it was like everything was turned on its head. It was like everything he's saying is the exact opposite of everything I've tried, but everything I've tried hasn't worked. So I'm going to give this a go. So I was really excited. Um, and Atkins has a number of phases. Like the first one is induction, and actually, induction is probably ketovore kind of
Right.
thing because it's basically eat some lettuce and then everything else is bacon and eggs and whatever. And so I pretty much stayed on induction the whole time. And I was on it for months and I felt better than ever. And I thought, okay, I finally found the thing. Finally found the thing that works. But I allowed myself to get talked out of it. Despite my body saying, yes, this is it, you've found it, keep doing this. The media was going crazy in Australia about Atkins at that time. Like they were just getting people watching, because it was so controversial, right? So every night there was a story on the current affairs show that was on TV about how, more and more people are doing it, but more and more people are going to kill themselves. And they had all these experts on talking about, oh yeah, it's a heart attack waiting to happen. And I'm a programmer. But my manager at the time, at the bank that I was working at, used to be a dietitian. And he was all over me about it as well and telling me how I was going to kill myself and I needed to eat carbs and I needed the fruits and veggies and bread and all this kind of thing. And there was just so much pressure, I gave up.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I think it would be weird if you would have continued on with all the media and all the experts and all that stuff. Of course,
Mm.
you might feel okay now, and yeah, you lost weight because you cut your calories. Maybe that's the reason why, but now you're going to get a heart attack at some point. And it's so interesting too. Now we have so many people that have been carnivore for so long, and it's like, where are the bodies? Like we know a lot of these people have high cholesterol. We should be like building up bodies of carnivores who are keeling over. And I just think to myself, like the first day that a carnivore gets a heart attack, it will be mainstream news on every platform for months. It feels like, you know what I mean? And it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, like I've heard particular cardiologists that are quite vocal on Twitter and places like that and YouTube that are anti-keto, anti-carnivore that'll come out and say, "Oh, we found this guy who'd been on keto for 2 weeks and he had a heart attack." And it's like, no, heart attacks don't work that way. You're a cardiologist. You should know that, like it's years of buildup.
So ridiculous. Okay, heading back to more recently in your story, when you found out from Dr. Berry that vegetables might be causing a little bit of distress, how, first of all, what were the vegetables that he identified that you said you were consuming a lot of? And what kind of volume are we talking about as far as vegetables? Were you consuming primarily vegetables? Did you think you had a lot of them? Or was it actually quite few vegetables you were getting?
So the vegetables were, and actually these are probably classed as fruits because they've got seeds in them, but basically red peppers and yellow peppers. And what I was doing was I was like making up this kind of fry pan full of bacon and eggs or eggs and ground beef and just frying up 8 or 10 eggs, scrambling them up and then putting, say, bacon on top of them. And then on the side, I was having these kind of fried up red peppers and yellow peppers and a little bit of bok choy or spinach as well. And yeah, I think the red peppers, yellow peppers were because they're nightshades, they were the ones that were causing the distress. So you talked
So,
about
go ahead.
tomatoes and the peppers, yeah.
So, okay, so you just can't eat that many red peppers and yellow peppers, right? The volume of vegetable matter you must have had, like you said, as a side dish. If you're already eating 8 eggs, I know what it's like to eat 8 eggs, and it's quite satiating with bacon. It's also very satiating. The space that the peppers would have taken would have been so small. I'm saying this to drive home the point that like people don't understand how harmful even small amounts of vegetables can be. Like people can,
Mm.
maybe come around on fruit because it's got lots of sugar. Maybe people can agree about seed oils and, grains are more refined and sugar is probably not great, but it's this sacred cow of like, well, I'm only having just a little bit of vegetables. Those little bit of vegetables might be enough to cause needless suffering.
Yeah. And I've never been a fan of vegetables. For me, it was always like I've been told this is where the vitamin C comes from. You need vitamin C. And at that stage, I knew nothing about how we don't need as much vitamin C if we're not consuming carbohydrate and that kind of thing. I was just like, I need it. So that's what I've been told. And it's just, this is 40 odd years of having been messaged that these food groups are important, it's crazy.